What is up, sick man? We are back at week 13. Unlucky for some, but I think pretty lucky for us. March Madness is here. So, if you're tired of the NBA grind and you want games to watch at reasonable times, you have no excuse because the college games start at like 4 and they go until midnight and then they end. So, get on that, fill out your brackets. But this is not a college basketball podcast. This is an NBA podcast and we are tackling, I think, all of our favorite two divisions to talk about. We've got some big hitters, the Atlantic and Pacific. So let's start where we always start when we talk about these two divisions in the Atlantic, and we are going to talk about the biggest trending team so far. They've made a lot of changes to the league, and I think a lot of teams are panicking, and that is the Brooklyn Nets. We're going to head to our correspondent Jordan, who's doing a wildie right now. He's on a black screen. How you coping? Can we hear you, John? Are you there?
Yes, you can hear me. I am here. You know, it's all good. And the only reason why we blacked out because we're blacking out for Brooklyn Nets. That's all it is. Celebrations, baby. That's all it is. Taking it on. Yeah, so this week Brooklyn Nets have gone 2-0. So happy about that. You know me, I love it when we just go for straight wins here at House at 03. Last game against the Pistons was a tight one, ending 100-95 to the Nets. And congratulations to Harden on that one because he surpassed married the legend on the all-time scoring list. If you go back and watch the interview on that one, he didn't even realize that he won it. He had to double check. But yeah, so that was a really good performance from him. He ended with 24 points, 10 assists, and 10 rebounds in that. So a very good performance, which we are happy with. They also played one against the Celtics, ended the score 121-109. Irving with the massive performance out there, ending with 40 points in that game as well. So currently with those results, they sit second out in the East. But overall in power rankings, they're number one. So that is great. Again, I think they're showing out on that performance in on the offensive side of the floor. Again, the defense is still not where they want it to be, but they've shown some improvements. So they're now 16th in overall defensive rating, which as long as we're going up, like we're happy with that. And I think this 2-0 is going on a good stretch, especially considering that Kevin Durant, that's one of their best players, is out. So yeah, the rest of the league better watch out.
Really impressive from those two wins is that Harden actually shot 1 of 8 to 3, 1 of 8 from 3. And in the Pistons game, him and Kyrie combined from 0 of 12 from 3. So they're still able to win those games even when they're shooting poorly. I think that's a massive sign of trouble for the league. You talk about big time players. Since we last spoke, George, the Nets have acquired Blake Griffin. Yes, he's a man who hasn't dunked in 2 years, which is crazy. But he's still... He can be a serviceable player to this team. So, Jordan, I want to ask you, what does he bring to this team? Can you give me a grade rating of what this acquisition is?
I'm not sure if I was alone with this, but I felt like I was getting a bit too overhyped in terms of thinking, yeah, Lob City, we're bringing it all the way back to Brooklyn. Like, it's going to be great. It's going to be killer. But I think right now, with that acquisition, it poses some question marks instead of like an absolute certainty. I feel like this is kind of a similar situation to where Melo was, where he was going around the teams and Griffin's kind of in that situation where he's trying to find out how he can gel within the team because he's not from, like, as Wildy's mentioned before, you still want him to be like that great player, but with things like such as the injuries and stuff and him missing a couple of steps, he's not the player which he once was. So it's just watching to see how he adjusts to that. So with that, with the Brooklyn Nets, I think it'll be beneficial for him generally, because I think with that, in that Pistons role, he had to take on a lot of the burdens, and teams would focus on him. But now that he's with the Nets, teams can't really afford that luxury, especially with all the other big names out there on the roster. Now, having said that, the question, as you mentioned before, is like, how can the Nets capitalize from that, which is the massive question which I'm seeing from here. Because as we mentioned, like with the missing step and how he involves, unlike other situations, I think he will gel really well, but it's just a matter of how much he can contribute and how soon he can get into that overall. So if I was gonna grade this acquisition, I will probably give it a C.
Interesting. Okay, so we're just about passing, really.
Yeah.
I think the main thing for Blake is knowing that he's the fourth best player on the team. He doesn't need to come in and do too much. He can average, just over double digits. Let's just say like 10 and 5. And just be serviceable, because that could just add another dynamic to the team. And like you said, their defense has improved. It's him putting that ego aside, like Harden's done really well. We'd have to give credit. He bailed his way out of Houston. He's a different guy on the Nets, and they're playing really well.
I do have to point out on that, Bray's kind of looking like the anti-Winston Churchill, going, oh, no. So I just want to find out what's your viewpoints on there, man.
He's not the fourth best player. He is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's like the 8th best player on that team.
What? Name
that
them.
Is super.
Name them.
Yeah, 8 is a bit strong, but
James Harden, Kyrie Irving, DeAndre Jordan, Joe Harris, Landry Shamet, Jeff Green. I'd have all of those players above.
You're joking me. You're a joke, Bray. And
this is why you're bottom. This is why you're bottom.
We're moving on. That is ludicrous.
This is why you're bottom.
I'm kidding.
Moving from L's to more L's. Let's go to a team who's on a 5-game losing streak. Door's pretty open. You might want to open that door, like Shilan Beer, because the Toronto Raptors, the Tampa Bay, it's not looking too good. Talk to me about 6.
Yeah, it's not a draft. It is very much open, this door right now, despite the fact that it is shut behind me. The Raptors, they've lost their last 5. Slumped now to 17 and 22 overall. They're actually now even out of the play-in spots in the East. In terms of the defeats of late, they've not been against the strongest teams. So they lost by 1 point to the Hawks, 121 to 120. They're actually up 10 points going into the final quarter in that game. And they lost on a buzzer beater. I can see them in Wildy beaming in the corner there.
Say his name.
A buzzer beater by, I'm sorry, I just have to. It's always a 3-pointer buzzer beater for the Atlanta Hawks. Oh, it wasn't Trae Young. It was Tony Snell.
Assist from Trae Young.
Yeah, but assist from Trae Young. If you actually watch the assist from Trae Young, he's going for a layup to tie the game, and then he obviously gets double teamed, and then he stops, sees Snell in the corner open. And then he goes to throw it, and then he hesitates and thinks, fuck it. And he does it anyway. He hesitates. He doesn't even go to pass it instantly. That's the thing.
Calculated risk.
He wasn't even confident he was going to make the shot. That's how much of a fluke it was. So, yeah, the Raptors threw that game away. And then they lost 114-104 to the Hornets, in which the Hornets just were better from shooting. They shot better from the field. They were 49% versus the Raptors at 39%. And then even from 3-pointer, the Raptors only shot 33% from 3-point, whereas Hornets 43%. And that 114-104 loss, it could have been a lot worse. They were down 25 points going into the final quarter. So, don't believe this final scoreline when you look at the result from that. And then last night, lost against the Chicago Bulls, 118-95. All in which the Bulls got 60 rebounds to the Raptors 37. So, pretty dominated there. Although, shout out Norman Powell, who's been playing well of late.
How are you not shouting out big boy Boucher?
Yeah, Boucher's
He's playing great.
Yeah, Boucher's been playing well as well. That makes no sense. Boucher's been playing well too, but what's been happening with the Raptors in this slump is the last 5 games they've missed Anunoby and Van Vliet, and the last 6 Siakam, all from COVID protocols. And Van Vliet and Siakam both average 20 points per game. Anunoby's 14 points per game. It's the three of their 5 starters that are just gone from the team. So it's completely understandable. And even from a defensive aspect as well, the last 5 games they've conceded 123 points per game. Only the Wizards worse with 124.
Yeah, you're talking about they're missing some big key names. Toronto are actually 1 of 7 in the back-to-back outings, the second game, which is tough. So, Matt, do you think it's because of what happened in the bubble? They obviously went 7 games with the Celtics. Do you think it's them playing in Tampa Bay, or do you think it's just the whole sped-up schedule that's playing a toll on this team, which is projected to actually go quite far and is a dangerous team?
I think it's all of the things that you said, really. It's like the perfect storm, really, for the Raptors. I think with the whole playing in Tampa at the start of the season, that had a massive impact on them, and they started to settle and take out these last 5 games. They've actually been playing quite well in Tampa of late, and then even on the road too, they've got some good results on the road as well. That whole back-to-back thing is a bit of a concern. And especially with the likes of, say, Kyle Lowry's obviously aging now, so he's probably not going to be able to play as many games and get as many minutes as usual. And where obviously, I think he's been playing like 38, 39 minutes a game for these last 5 matches where they've been missing their other key starters. So I think it's all of those things that you said, really. But I think they're the type of team, the Raptors, where they can lose 5 on the bounce, but they can easily go and win 6 or 7. So it's not too much of a concern. The main thing that I'm just a bit pissed off about is that there's 5 teams in the East who are not in a play-in spot, and 3 of them are mine. So I have drafted terribly from the East.
You're looking like Bray from the East.
Yeah.
Bray's Bray in the West.
Yeah.
That's how I was looking.
But he's the Bray of the East.
Bray of the East, yeah. King of the East. Let's head to that man right now. Salt Bray. Celtics.
Well, not somebody right now.
No, 1-1 this week. They're 20-18 overall. Last time, I said that Danny Ainge would have made a move, and he still hasn't made a move. That's heating up. But talk to me about the Celtics this week, or the past 3 weeks that we haven't spoken about. What's happening in Boston?
Yeah, you're very right. The rumours are definitely heating up. So I think, how long have we got left to the trade deadline? I think we've got just over a week.
March 23rd, 24th.
Yeah, so we've got just over a week, and I think something is going to happen. But to go on to how they've been playing, they're 6-4 in their last 10. Importantly, they are 5-1 in their last 6. So they're on a bit of a tear at the moment. They had some really big wins against the Pacers. They absolutely stole a game against the Wizards a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if anyone remembers it. They managed to steal the ball off Bradley Beal on an inbounds and then score to win. It was just like an insane finish. It was a couple of weeks ago.
I talked about it last week.
Yeah, like obviously you think about them beating the Pacers, they beat the Wizards, they also beat the Clippers and then the Raptors as well. So that's 3 games against people in their conference who are all in the same race, which is just massive. And then they lost to the Nets, as George mentioned. And then the most recent one, they just waxed the Rockets, but it's the Rockets. So, you don't really take too much from that. I think the most important thing is the Nets game, because for them, that's a potential playoff matchup. At some point, if they're as successful as they hope to be, they hope to meet a team like the Nets or the Sixers or the Bucks. So you have to be looking at that game and going, okay, where are we at now? They actually were up in the first quarter. They held the Nets to 23 points in the first. As you mentioned, the kind of shooting woes started. Then the Nets kind of weren't shooting so badly. And, Kyrie, it's already been mentioned, he had 40 points. So it was quite a back and forth game. Kyrie closed it out, 2 big threes to get the lead at 10 there or thereabouts in the fourth quarter, and they just couldn't do it. They got edged out on rebounds and second chance points, and that's the reason they have someone like Tristan Thompson, and obviously he's not making the difference, which is a shame. They are definitely in the ballpark. Like, it wasn't a complete blowout. They can definitely win that game. They've got the talent in Brown and Tatum. Importantly, Smart was back as well, which is massive. Obviously, it's not ideal because Kyrie scored 40 and Smart's the kind of key matchup you look for there. But at the same time, like, he does give them a lot on offense as well, which they have been sorely missing over the last few games. So that's really, really good for them. And yeah, I'm in a much better place with them now, I think, especially getting Smart back than I was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, Kyrie's always going to put up big numbers. It's all about containing, and sort of extending how many shots they take. One player in that game that really struggled was Jaylen Brown. He shot 5 of 23 overall. I'm pretty sure he won't be having another game like that again. Let's head to my stat line of the week in the Rockets. Time Lord, okay? Robert Williams, 16 points, 13 rebounds, 7 for 7 from the field, 1 assist, 1 steal, and 3 blocks. How many minutes was he on the court? 19 minutes. That is my stat line of the week. That is fantastic. And hopefully he might be in the starting line.
I wouldn't hold your breath.
Well, this is what we're going to get to. So the Celtics trade talks, they are heating up indeed. Shams reported that the Celtics are attempting to pursue after LaMarcus Aldridge, one of Ed's teams, because he's agreed to part ways with Spurs. And they're also hunting after Wildy's own John Collins. So, Bray, who are they more likely to get? Who would you want them to get? Who are they more likely to get?
I mean, look, for argument's sake, I'll weigh it up. Obviously, LMA gives you that scoring, but he is an absolute sieve on defense. He cannot, he'll be closing out people shooting threes and he'll still be in the key. He'll just put a hand up. It's honestly, it's not good. Yes, he gives them the extra scoring that they do need. They need an extra scorer, but I don't think he fits their team. He's a 4, but he's slow. And no, it just doesn't really work. So I think realistically, if they want to pursue anyone, like John Collins would do so much for that team, because you play him at the 4, play him at the 5. The other way, you could send back a piece like Time Lord if they were interested. You probably also look to maybe move one of the other bigs as well, because they've got a nice trio of Tice, Thompson, and Time Lord, and there's not enough minutes to go around. That's why, as you said, in 19 minutes, he put up that stat line. He's just not getting enough of them. His per 36 stats are amazing, but there's not enough to go around. And I think Thompson's been lackluster, so I'd be looking to move on from him. Tice is, when he's the kind of 5 and they just go with 4 wings, it's really good because he plays out, he plays hard on defense, and it fits their team really well. I think they're really they need to be 4 out, 1 in at all times. And John Collins definitely gives them the ability to do that. I have to say, I'd love to see more of him.
Let Time Lord play more. That's all I'm going to say. Let the boy loose. Right.
Actually, do you know why his name is Time Lord?
It's Bill Simmons, right?
No, he's He basically missed the practice by like a day or something. Yeah.
He's never on time to anything.
Well, listen, he was on time and on target in that game. Let me tell you that much.
Yeah.
Another team that went 1-1 this week was a team in geographical sense quite close, and one of the major cities, the big markets, is New York, that continue to overachieve this season, 20-19 overall. Let's head to House Lasky. Talk to me.
Yeah. So I'll get to the overachieving bit at the end, because I'll start off on the good notes. So last time we spoke about the Knicks, they were 15-16, so they were below 500. Now they're above it. They're 20-19. So they went 5-3 in the last 8 games. They're above 500. 1-1 this week, as Alex said, after the All-Star break, which is good for the Knicks. Although Kenny Smith doesn't seem to think so, because, this is the first time that they're good. So I won't get into that after last week. So during that 8-game time period, they had some big wins against the Pacers, and then obviously most recently against OKC. They did have some losses to the Warriors, Spurs, and the Bucks, which is a bit worrying, and I'll explain why a little bit later. So after the All-Star break, their first game was against the Bucks. Knicks conceded the most amount of points they had all year, 134 points. And Randall didn't perform to the best. He had 8 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists. He had, as Chuck likes to call, a triple single. And then, however, to be fair to him, the next game against Orlando, the Knicks did step up a gear. Orlando against OKC, sorry, they stepped up again. Julius Randle had 26, 12, and 12, so he did have a triple-double thereafter. RJ also had 32 points and quickly got 21 points off the bench, which is, again, really nice for him. And the reason why I mentioned them 3 is there was a report last week saying that everyone is available for trade apart from Randle and RJ. And I was a bit surprised that Quickly wasn't included in that note as well. Maybe also Robinson. Obviously, he's injured at the moment, but Mitchell Robinson also seems like a nice piece for the Knicks. So I think that's more saying that they believe that they're more bigging up RJ and Julius and saying, if we do need to make a big splash, we don't mind sacrificing someone else to get a big player in. If that is, who would be available? Bradley Beal wouldn't be, because RJ is already there. I'm not sure who they would pick. But anyway. If there does come a situation where they need to trade for a star player, they feel like they have the assets that they could do. And again, I was surprised Quickly wasn't mentioned in the same bracket as Randall and RJ, because you can never see him have a very big role in an elite team, potentially.
That's the problem with a big market team, especially like the Knicks. They're probably thinking about, okay, which superstars can we bring in, because the fans are going to be back soon, and they've always wanted a big name. So, I personally love Quickly. I would keep him. And hold on to that asset. I think he's a really good player.
To be fair on that point as well, this was a report about a week or so ago, and my initial thoughts when I saw it, oh shit, what about Quickly? But then after a couple of days, it was like, it's not like they're actively trying to find a superstar, but teams are aware that if the Knicks do want to do business, they know that they can do it with those sort of players. So it's good that they aren't just getting hyped over, oh shit, we need to make some moves now. They're being a lot more, what's the word? I don't know. They're being a lot more.
Yeah.
And also not being too, not aggressive, but just rash. They're being a lot more calm and cultured about the decisions that they are making, which is credit to the front office.
Let's talk about one of the players who is untouchable, and that's RJ Barrett. Averaging 21 points per game on 58% shooting in his last 7. His 3-point percentage has increased from 32 to 36 compared to last season. What have you seen out of him really becoming the second star player next to Julius this season?
Yeah, I always feel like judging someone on their first year of doing something, or if it's just their rookie year, is very unfair, because they have no idea what they're getting themselves into. I always like to see how you do from a sophomore perspective rather than a rookie perspective. And now that RJ has had a year just sort of get his feet under the NBA and sort of know what the game's about, and now that Julius has also stepped up as the number 1 option, you feel that RJ is much more comfortable in his role. And you're talking about his three-point shooting. Since January, he's 40% from 3 as well, which is an extended period of time. It's really good for him, especially in this year. This is in the NBA right now. And of those threes, actually, so I saw another stat, which was last year as a rookie, RJ had 18% of his threes were pull-ups, which is a very high amount. That's what 2 every 5 shots. This year it's now down to 6%, so he's taking a lot less pull-up threes, which is again a much more efficient shot for him. And he's taking a lot more mid-range shots as well, which is becoming a lot more comfortable with. Now he's got sort of like a go-to mid-range game, which is quite good, and is now sort of a dying breed, and something I've mentioned before previously, is an important asset, because if everyone's guarding the paint and everyone's guarding that 3-point line, there's opportunities there in the mid-range to get some easy buckets. And I think RJ is making the most out of that, which is very nice for the Knicks moving forward.
Yeah, really happy for the Knicks. Glad that they've turned it around. Can't wait for playoff basketball when all the fans back in MSG. Let's close it out in this division with my own Philadelphia 76ers. 3-0 this week. Public service announcement. Okay, it's been a tough week for me. Okay, because you know, as you know, Joel Embiid, the cornerstone went down. Okay, so I just want to message out to Joel, please be careful. I don't care about no MVP. You just got to make it to the playoffs. Okay, that's all I want. Don't go bowling. Don't do some weird stuff with your hair like Andrew Bynum. Okay, you need to be there. Okay, we need you there. I don't care about the MVP. I know I was chirping, talking all that rubbish. It doesn't matter. Okay, I'm done. We're 3-0 this week. Wildy, take it away with Philly.
Absolutely, man. 5-game winning streak at the moment as well. They played the Bulls, Wizards, and San Antonio. We'll talk about them in that order because best till last for that San Antonio game. They didn't have Embiid in the Bulls game, but they came out, obviously got the win. The price is Dwight. He got 18 points and 12 rebounds. 7 guys they had in double-figure scoring as well, and they would have had 8, but Danny Green only got 9 points. But hey, that's okay. They got the win, so that's what it's all about. Wizards game, that is when we've had the Joel scare. Again, obviously still came out with the win. Joel still produced 23 points and 7 rebounds in 2.5 quarters play. But Korkmaz and Shake Milton, big time off the bench, both had 18 apiece to maintain the lead. They had a 20-point lead when Embiid went down, and they ended up getting a win, which is fantastic. Big takeaway from those first 2 games before I move on to San Antonio. Is that the biggest thing about Philly over the past few years has always been about identity. They've had the talent, but it's like, what are we? Because the whole chemistry aspect has been a bit out of whack with the style of players that they had. To see the way they're moving the ball at the moment, even when they don't have their 2 superstars, is so good. I mean, the way they're moving the ball is a testament to the coaching Doc Rivers, and it showing that they're having not just an identity with their 2 star guys, which you've been waiting for. They got an identity from 3 through till 12 as well, which is why they've been able to maintain the top spot in the East, even with the emergence of the Brooklyn Nets having the power team that they have. San Antonio. So this is night of the week. Me and Alex were talking about this prior to the pod, and he believes that this is the best game that they've played all year. I'm going to give you some stuff to back that up. So again, no Joel Embiid, but they did have Ben Simmons. They came out again. The passing was unbelievable. To the point where they won the game with 35 assists as a team. Kind of assists they were pulling out the bag was Dwight Howard at the top of the key, dumping passes into dummy screens from people like Mike Scott. If you can whittle it down to something like that, everybody's getting involved. Ben ended up with 9, and as a team they had 35, as I say. And also 2 guys I want to mention really key in that game is Seth and Danny. They were really shooting the ball well, and from watching other games, I really felt like this was the first game where both those guys were shooting the ball with a real fuck you mentality, and just making everything. And they ended up finishing the game with 51% from 3. Just an amazing win. They were in control of it the whole time and brought it out.
That was such a great game to watch. We scored on 22 out of 23 possessions in the third, and everything was moving. The ball was flowing. It was really impressive to watch. Yes, the Spurs didn't have DeRozan, but we didn't have Embiid. So like my boy Ultra said, sort of balances it out. But Wildy.
More than balances it out.
Yeah. But
Joel Embiid's a bigger loss than DeMar. I mean, I'd say, hey, I'm a DeMar defender. Yeah, he's great. You saw that on the All-Star talks. But also, they handed the Spurs their worst loss in franchise history from point differential. You could argue their worst loss was in the finals with the Ray Allen shot, obviously. But in terms of regular season point differential, 35 points. That's big time.
Wildy, come with me into the front office, right?
All right.
You're Daryl Morey, okay? You've seen
Got the
Brooklyn. They've picked up Blake Griffin, okay?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do, okay? Are you going to make a move? Are you staying put with the current roster? Are you getting someone like Lowry, Terrence Ross, Thad Young? Talk to me.
Absolutely. So I'm not absolutely we're getting someone. No. So what I'm saying is I've just harped on a little bit about how good the chemistry is between these guys and everything they've been doing over the whole season, but especially over the past 3 to 5 games. I personally wouldn't want to mess around with it because any of the guys that I can think that would help this team out, I think Kyle Lowry is the main guy that you might want to get. A few other names that have been thrown out there for them was potentially Fournier, Terrence Ross, and also PJ Tucker. To be honest, I don't feel like any one of those guys is a piece that you can interchange with the roster that you have at the moment. And let's face it, you obviously have to give up stuff to get something back. So are you really going to mess with the chemistry that you guys finally have in order to try and fix something that isn't broken? I don't believe it should be something that should be done. Daryl is the ultimate let's make a move guy, but they're winning. I personally don't believe they need to do anything with where they're at.
If we were to make a move, I would love to see Kyle Lowry play for Philly because he's a
Real
Philly boy.
Guy. Yeah, he is like a perfect Philadelphia player. He's like he's like the point guard version of Jimmy Butler. So it's just those kind of guys that you want to have in Philly, basically.
Definitely.
But what would you have to give up?
That is the point. And that is going to close out on Atlantic. So take a short break and then we'll hit our Pacific.